This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. So glad to be in San Diego today. We are joined by Chuck Lowery. He is the deputy mayor of the beautiful city of Oceanside, California. Must be difficult living in nirvana and paradise, but someone's got to do it, right?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Let's talk about an issue that faces all 400 plus cities in California, and that's the question of marijuana. We know that back, I think it was 1996, the voters of California passed Prop 215, which legalized marijuana for medicinal purposes. What has Oceanside done in the wake of 215? We'll get to 64 soon, but what about in the wake of 215?
Well, 215 was something that had very structured guidelines for producers, distributors, and consumers.
Right.
And as a result of having structured guidelines in the state, cities had to sort of walk around it because it had not come down to the point where the cities could do anything. The regulations were prohibitive at certain points.
Somewhat onerous.
Yes, and the problem that we have as a municipality is that all of the transactions taking place in the medical marijuana industry and the recreational industry are currently cash.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I've talked about this on our show. I recently interviewed actually two members of the Board of Equalization, which collects taxes for the state. They both told me independently that at the BOE in Sacramento, a medical marijuana dispensary walked in with over $200,000 in cash.
Yeah.
They wanted to be compliant.
Yeah.
They wanted to pay their taxes. They just didn't have a bank
Yeah.
to go to. So that is an issue.
Yeah, well, the State Treasurer's Department is working with all the different state agencies to uncover what the state has to do, and so far there is no way we can do it under federal regulations at all.
And one could argue that with the new administration, it looks more likely than not that we won't be able to work with the feds.
That's the message.
Under the Obama administration, they're like, maybe there'd be some movement, but under the new Trump
Yeah,
administration.
we're not optimistic. I don't know what the intent is around creating a system within the state of California to handle banking operations. I can imagine if that's done, that would streamline the process. But at this point, as a city government, we are trying to create a system that complies with the outer umbrella of the state. And since there's no guideline around finance or money handling, we just have to explore best practices, and we are working with the state to understand what it is they're wanting.
So at this stage, let's talk about Prop 64, because that is the initiative that legalized marijuana for all purposes. Interestingly, we talked about this. So the initiative passed 5743, and essentially in Oceanside, Carlsbad, San Diego County, about 57% passage as well. Kind of mirrors the state. Was that a surprise to you?
I was surprised when I looked it up that almost every voting area was the same number as the state. So we have a average of everywhere you look of 57%.
So what does that say to you then? Because I understand I think you're heading up an ad hoc committee in Oceanside to look at brick and mortar stores, be it medical or recreational, that your voters spoke pretty clearly that they would like to see legalized marijuana. I guess the question was not in Oceanside, but at least they wanted legalized marijuana. They weren't asked specifically about their city.
Well, we in Oceanside last year, before the state proposition was passed, we had a meeting to discuss allowing deliveries within the city for medical marijuana. And I was opposed to bringing marijuana deliveries into the city at all.
Why?
Because the police had advised us that it was an issue for crime.
I understand.
And obviously with handling cash for all transactions, delivery drivers wind up being targeted.
I understand.
So I changed my mind when the people who came to the council meeting came, I'm not kidding, wheelchairs, walkers, they had to be carried in. They brought their children with them who had conditions that they were getting relief from medical marijuana, topical application.
I've heard people, friends of mine, you know, very conservative types, I don't mean politically, and they tell me they're taking, and it's not the part of the marijuana that gets them intoxicated, but it's helping with headaches, with back spasms, helps them sleep. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's called CBD.
CBD,
that does not have the psychoactive material in it. So people can use that without getting high.
Right.
Which is a great benefit for people in the community who would like be the age of my late mother, 85, who were afraid to smoke marijuana. And at that time, we didn't know that there was access.
And you don't have to inhale it.
Correct.
There are gummy
Not at all.
bears and
Yeah.
lollipops and brownies
Yeah,
and
things like Vaseline.
right.
is-
It's
yeah.
remarkable.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know you're in the ad hoc committee. No decisions have been made,
Right.
but the time will come sooner rather than later that your constituents will start agitating. We want an answer.
Yeah.
Are you going to allow for
Yes.
recreational sales inside Oceanside? A beach surf community with great
Yeah.
restaurants and
No
I mean,
surfers smoke
no,
pot.
right? Oh, none at all,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
But look, I don't want to make any generalizations, but I could see Oceanside welcoming respectable businesses that are within the purviews of the law.
Our focus at this point is to facilitate all the elements of the business of marijuana being in harmony with each other in the sense that they will be in compliance with our city regs,
I understand.
state and federal.
And as you know, you have that authority. We have a bureau in Riverside, California, and Riverside was the city that took the question to the California Supreme Court, which was, can a city ban medical marijuana facilities? And on a 7-0, the Supreme Court said yes. That doesn't mean that's what you're looking to do, but the context of the decision was there is land use authority with cities.
Yeah, so we are hoping that we, as the ad hoc committee is composed of 5 individuals, plus we have our two staff people.
Right.
And we are myself and Councilmember Jerry Kern, our city treasurer, and then we have 2 members of the public. One is a woman who is a professor and head of a department of drug and other pharmacology in San Diego. And the 5th member is a member of the community who's considered a citizen advocate, but she has cerebral palsy or something.
What about cultivation? Because that's
Yes.
another question. Do you have farmland? I can't remember.
We do. We have about 400 acres
Okay.
or more of farmland in the eastern part of Oceanside, and it's been most interesting. The farmers are, in their opinion, not being able to sustain their businesses because cost of water, labor, all
Right.
kinds of regulations are so high. But they are working with the Farm Bureau of the county, and
But what's interesting,
they want the option to grow marijuana.
what I've heard though about marijuana is while the plant is hardy,
Yeah,
it's thirsty too.
it's picky.
Right,
Yeah.
it's thirsty. And so we're not in drought allegedly anymore,
Yeah.
but something to consider. I don't know if you've read the city of Adelanto. You heard about them?
I did read that last week.
In the
Yeah.
high desert.
Yeah.
I mean, they want to become kind of the
Yeah.
cultivation
Yeah.
capital
Yeah.
of the region. They have serious fiscal challenges in
Yeah.
their budget. And so I don't know that Oceanside becomes Adelanto, but it's something to consider.
Well, the money to build infrastructure for what is going to wind up being an indoor cultivation
Right, that's what Adelanto's
industry,
doing.
Yes.
Right.
Where the developer has to build the buildings and they have to have the security and the cameras and all the other systems in place to manage the product. We have space for them to do that in Oceanside, and the
Indoor.
growers want to do that.
Oh, wow.
We have
So that's
physical
that's
space.
another question then.
Yes. We have the physical space for the farmers who are in farming operation
Right.
right now. We're meeting with them
Coming
in the
up.
in the next 10 days.
So
yeah.
my question for you is, do you have a sense of a timeline?
Well, the ad hoc committee is regulated. Everything is regulated that
okay.
you do in government, and our timeline is 6 months, and we're about 6 weeks old right
Okay,
now.
so you're just collecting
We
information.
are meeting every week, just about
It's
right
gotta
now.
be fascinating.
It
I mean,
is-
these
it
are
is
really
interesting, yes.
interesting
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
When you think about the fact that in 2010, the state of California in Prop 19 voted against legalization, 46-53,
Yeah.
and then 6 years later, 11-point swing to pass it.
yeah,
I
times
want to
have
thank you
changed.
so much for joining us, Deputy Mayor of Oceanside, Chuck Lowery.
Brad.
We are in San Diego County today. My name is Brad Pomerance. I'm glad you're with us on Local Edition.